Okay, good morning. So I think yesterday the notes has been already uploaded. So what you can do is the printed notes is only for a short format. That is not now to read. The initial notes, what is there, right? That you can only use it towards the end, like revision, what you want to do. The written notes, what is there? That is the detailed notes. That you will have to read it for the first time. Now the point is that you can ask that smaller notes. What is there in that Plato? I think only 5 pages or 6 pages there. So why I can't read that straight away? Because content is less, so I can read very quickly. See, the problem is always this thing. So when you say that I'll directly read topper's notes, it is only in 2-3 pages. Why I need to read lengthy notes? What you need to understand is that the topper has made the notes. Unlike what you did, he did not directly take some topper's notes and read it. Means he would have read basic notes multiple times, then made his own short notes, and if wanted, he would have added some additional sources from other topper notes. You understand? So what many of people, they mistake is that, because that is how today the present generation what we live in is that everybody wants quick success without any hard work, saying that straight away I want to score 300. But the moment if you tell them no, it will take a lot of effort, they will not show interest. That's the market also. In market also, like, see, if we promote saying that political science is very, very easy, I will give you only 2 books, you read that much only, you will get, admissions will increase even more. But that we can't do because that is not morally correct. Okay, neither in other things also, neither you will get a rank. That's only immediate satisfaction what you can take to, just push yourself saying that no, I can do it. You understand? Without having the right reality, expecting that you're going to clear the exam is heights of foolishness. That will not happen. That you'll realize 2 years later, if not now. Means once you get experience of UPSC, then after 3 years you will come. It's for simple example, it's like trading. For a new trader who once enters the market, he always believes that intraday, within no span he'll make money. That will be his mentality. What is his mentality? Maybe one day he made 5,000. Next he'll imagine himself with that night. Every day I make 5,000, then it will become 6 lakhs. Then by the time of 6 months, if you see, he would have lost all his amount. And so I'm not telling every intraday won't make money. A person who knows the market well, who has worked on it a lot, he might make money. That is why we're saying when you take percentage wise, how many intraday actually are in what you can say a positive thing, less than 2% to 3%. 97% are, but what keeps them going at it? They're losing money, but still why they still start doing it? There are 2 reasons for it. Market analysis. In a country like India, for making money with long-term trade, okay, let us think, you need capital. At least you need to have 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs to make a considerable amount. So how many of them have that kind of capital? Why? Because in long term, what I'm telling, 15 lakhs is not your savings. Because if you invest your savings, that money might take 2 years for you to give the returns. Then you can't use that money for anything else. So that's why I told 15-20 lakhs, you need to have like free money. Means it's like just lying to you. That time you can make some money but how many of traders do have that money? They don't have that kind of capital. So obviously what happens in intraday, even if you have 50,000, it allows you to buy shares worth what? 5 lakhs. Margin they'll give you now. But obviously to do all that, you have to have a very high knowledge about how market works, and it is highly fluctuating. But still, why people keep going at it? On the belief system that they're going to become rich overnight. Okay, so that is what you can say. Kautilya in his Arthashastra, very long back, has told. It's not only with diplomacy, it's not, you can apply that to day-to-day life, what Kautilya said. How can we, take control of people or a man? Cyber thefts, what you see now happens. 3 simple things, it's nothing new. The old wine in a new bottle. Man has 3 weaknesses. One is woman, that is lust. Second one is greed, that I want to become rich overnight. Third is fear. And that is what cyber criminals, they usually use these 3 things to, catch people. So for example, what is greed? Here also you can say greed is that what you want to, without doing any hard work, you want 300 marks. that I can make use of to my advantage, saying that, see, you don't do anything, I'll teach you this subject within 1 month, 1 mahine mein tu 300 aayega tumko, expert ho jayega tumko. So the person, let us think, who will fall flat to this. Now this is the right season to lay this trap. Prelims is going on. See, majority will be like this. Now, what you see in Chandra layout, how many people are preparing for prelims? If you ask me, remove the mask and tell, 80% of them waste only. They have not prepared only. They're just roaming from this building to that building, here and there, some jugad, attending marathon classes everywhere, thinking that what, overnight will clear the exam. Simple, now you see now marathon class will be done here in our institute also, in other institute also. They'll go sit in marathon class, thinking that what, last 10 months you have not read basics of economy. Do you think in 124 hours you are going to understand economy? That is your greed, that's it. That somebody will take advantage of. Second one is what? Fear. Fear is what? Current affairs. ये आएगा, जरूर आएगा, 100% आएगा, तो आप नहीं पढ़ो तो आप डूब जाएगा. How many of them actually would have opened the paper and see how many current affairs has come, what current affairs come, how many have done? They would have not done. Simply then what? Okay, current affairs, if we miss, we'll fail off this exam. They would have not worked on their basics. So that's why I told that you need to come out of it. That's why I told short notes, what is uploaded, that is only towards your end. It's a example like how your short notes can be. Understood? But once you read your entire notes, written notes. So reading written notes, yes, it will take time. Why it will take time? Because you need to understand from the basic level. Understood? So in that note is in detail only, the written notes. In class, you can just make value addition to that notes if you feel that anything new I have said, or if something same I have said, you just blindly read that particular notes. That will be largely enough. Now, the part what we are going to start with, as I told, it is going to be part A of PSIR. And in part A, we will be starting with what? Western political thought. In Western political thought, we are going to read about thinkers. Okay, who are the thinkers we are going to read? Plato, Aristotle, Machiavelli, then you have Thomas Hobbes, then you have John Locke, then you have J.S. Mill, then you have Karl Marx, then you have Antonio Gramsci, and lastly, the only woman thinker among the thinkers whom we are going to read is Hannah Arendt. Understand? These are the thinkers you are going to prepare now. So the first thinker is Plato. So we are going age-wise. Age-wise is not their personal age, time period what they belong to. So obviously we can say Plato or Aristotle bring to the era of BC, before Christ. Understood? So as you come down, these are all modern scholars. If you take Karl Marx, Gramsci, okay, even J.S. Mill to a certain extent. So obviously here we are not going to read about their life history or etc. Who is their father, who is their mother, where they were born, what. Don't worry about all that. It might be there in notes also. Okay, Plato was born in this era. Just focus more on ideas. So what I would ask from your end is that just prepare from exam point of view. Don't try to prepare from knowledge point of view. Why? Because you are not going to become a biographer writer on Plato. You are just going to write an answer on Plato. And how many questions will come on Plato every year? Every year also it will not come. Because there are 9 thinkers. It doesn't mean all 9 thinkers they'll ask in 1 year. So every 2 years, on an average 3 years, you find one question on Plato. That if you see in recent times in that regard, maybe only 2 or 3 questions have come on Plato because they are asking more about modern thinkers. But nevertheless, I'm not telling you don't read Plato. Why? Because as I told now, you can't skip anybody because there's a logical connection between every thinker whom you read. So here now, since we are going to read about Plato, Plato is part of what? Western political thought. First, we'll have to decode. So what do you mean by Western political thought? What is a political thought? So that will be a first basic understanding what we need to have. So here, what is the words we have used? Western political thought. So 1, 2 easier it will be deciphering. So you are saying it is Western. Western basically means what? We are speaking about the region of Europe, Greece, etc. So where does Greece come from? Greece is in Europe, right? So obviously here if you see the names, what you read, Plato, Aristotle, Machiavelli. Machiavelli is from Italy. Plato and Aristotle are from Greece. Okay. Hobbes, Locke and Mill are from England. Marx is from which country? He is from Germany. And you have Antonio Gramsci, who is from Italy. And you have Hannah Arendt, who is a German Jew. But later on, she went on to lead her life in America. So why we call this topic as Western political thought? Because we are largely discussing about the thinkers who are from the West. We have one more topic called as Indian political thought. So there you are reading about whom? Gandhi, Ambedkar, they are all from India. So that's a very easy thing to understand. Western political thought. Now what is more important to understand? Political thought. Got it? So when you read anything new for the first time, go with the very basic level. You understand? Don't just go by what is a book. I'll tell you why it is a book. Now let us think. For me, I know what is the meaning of political thought. You might not know the meaning of thought. You might not know the meaning of political. So let us think, I assume, okay, see, we are going to read Western political thought. I'll start with Plato. You are understanding, I don't know what is this political thought only. That's why I told whether it is given in the book or not. It's your duty to go into it. So here, even forget thought. First try to understand what is political. The word political can have two meanings. One, we can say, where is this word politics taken from? It's a Greek word. Actually, the word is polis. It's a Greek word. So in Greece, or that time in Athens, they used to refer polis in Greek language as city state. The affairs of the city state was called as what? Polis. That is politics. So in simple terms, affairs of the city state means we are discussing about something which is public. What do you mean by public? Common to all of us. What is private? What only affects you? So we say that the state cannot interfere in your private affairs. How you sleep in house, how you stand in house, it's your wish. You can do whatever you want. But what you do in public matters a lot. Why? Because what you do can also have impact on others. But at this stage of time, I'm telling you, when the word police came, or in Greece, you don't find the idea of nation existing that point of time. Right? A nation is a relatively new idea that emerged. It emerged in, you can say, 16th century onwards. Right? If you go back to ancient past, like in India also, where you had nation, actually the idea of nation in India emerged even more late. You understood? So that is why I think when Manjana would have done his polity, he would have told, state nation is different, nation state is different. India does not come under the category of nation state, because nation state usually what we see for European countries. You understood? Simple terms, you take England. So if you take the territory of England, you have all the English-speaking people who have been categorized. They belong to this nation, First Nation. Then they went on to become a state. But back then there was no nation. The idea of nation did not exist. You understand? So here you need to understand, first of all, to understand city-state, you need to understand what do you mean by a nation. What do you mean by state? Then we'll come back to what do you mean by politics. So by now, if your polity, basics of polity is done, you will know what is a nation. Group of people coming together on a common set of feelings. That can be a common set of identity also. That feelings can be based on a particular identity. Okay. Means, what do you mean by a feeling of particular identity? So let us take, for example, what is that connection we can say? What can be the different types of identity? It can be caste, it can be race, it can be language, it can be region. That affinity will have religion, anything you can go on to form. So they can be called as a nation. That is why in general we say every nation need not become a state. Every nation need not become a state, or they might not have statehood. For example, now Tamilians in Sri Lanka, they might claim themselves to be a nation because they are all basing their connection based on what? A common identity. What is a common identity? Language, right? So currently they are living under Sri Lankan state. They might proclaim themselves to be a nation, but they are not a state. Why? Because to become a state, you need to have 4 elements. What are the 4 elements? One you have is territory. The other you have is population. Then you have government. Then you have sovereignty. In some cases, what would have happened? They might have had a government. Okay, so for example, let us say Tibet. Now you have a Tibetan government in India, means Tibetan government in exile, what they claim. But why we don't still consider Tibet as a state? We still see Tibet as part of China. Because that government is not considered to be sovereign. You understood? So to become a state, all these elements are very important. In that, this is the most important element to become sovereign. Understood? So nation is first. That is what we say. Why we don't say India is a nation state? You need to understand the evolution. So obviously, if you look at in Europe, before I'm saying earlier, there were also kingdoms existed, right? So it was not like that the kingdom of England, kingdom of France. Within France or within England, you could have had multiple kingdoms. But over a period of time, with, let us take industrial revolution, with emergence of newer ideas, now it was possible for these people to unite, and they became conscious that all language is one factor where we can unite. So obviously that is what we say. If you look at France, Spain, England, they're all, means on what basis we can distinguish them? Language. English speaking population region became England, Spanish speaking population became Spain, the French speaking population became France, German speaking population became German. And then they moved towards what? Establishing a state. And that nature of state has now transformed. So earlier you can say it was monarchy, now they've become democracy. So even when it was monarchy, still they were a nation state. You understand? There's no rule that every nation state should be democratic. Not necessary. The idea was that they had a king, that king was sovereign. You understood? So obviously that is what we call as the idea of nation state. So obviously here, since that idea only is not there, that we all belong to one. So let us think in very, very olden times, how people used to exist. Let us think very old, even now, as a classic example, let us take Sentinelese who are living in Andaman Nicobar Highlands. They have no link with mainland India. India claims Andaman Nicobar is our territory. But do you think Centralists have the consciousness saying that, okay, we're all Indians? Right? If you see that the Indian government has said that no outsider can enter this particular area. So let us think, no, you go there and try to tell, hey, you are also Indians. I mean, by the time you say I'm an Indian, they would have killed you. Because they're not so open to outsiders. So you had this American traveler who went to promote Christianity there, and even before he opened Bible, he got killed. Because the group is averse to anybody. They don't have any consciousness, I'm a Christian, I'm a Hindu. They are a tribal mindset, living in their own area. And the affinity exists between the members of the tribe, not beyond the tribe. Today we have evolved. Even maybe in the past, even we belong to certain tribes. Today we have evolved and brought connections among different tribes, and we have identified ourselves as, okay, we belong to one common geography as what? Indians. So it's an example that nation is not something natural. You understand? So nation does not exist by nature. It's not something in reality. That has been something created for any purpose. It can be for governance purpose or etc. So at this point of time, people did not identify themselves as what we are Greeks. They identify themselves, we are from Athens, some from Sparta, we are Spartans. They fought among themselves. But their government, what was there? That managing that affairs of the state. They had a government. Anytime, it can be monarchy, it can be republic, etc. They had a government. They had population, they had territory, they had sovereignty. That is why that time they said police means affairs of the city state. That is how the word political came into equation. Now, before going into the word political thought, let's understand even a bit more about politics. So use the word polity. For example, in GS you study now Indian polity. There is also the word politics. So when somebody asks, like, what's the difference between what I study in GS2 or prelims, how it is different from political science, what I'm going to do? Because sir, it's similar. It is similar to a certain extent. Fundamental rights is here. But please, if you open your syllabus and see, for PSIR paper 1 part B, I'm not talking part A, part B. So what does the name that they carry in part B syllabus? Indian government and politics. They have not just used polity. So you will get an understanding how political science is much more deeper than the GS polity what you read. It's similar, but you need to read something extra also. Because in GS or in prelims, you are just reading polity. Which polity you are reading? You are not reading American polity. You are not reading African polity. You are just reading Indian polity. So obviously here you need to understand the difference between first polity and politics. So in general, polity, what we say, it is the study of structure, organization of a government. That is what we call as polity. What is polity? The study of structure or organization of a government. That is what we study polity. So you are studying Indian polity in prelims or mains also. So how you are studying that Indian polity? You are not studying about who is BJP, who is Congress, who is Modi, who is Rahul Gandhi, who is Mamata Banerjee, what is happening between them. That is not your area of interest, or it should not be your area of interest. You understand it? But you are keen on more understanding what is the structure of the Indian government. To understand that entire structure, let us think this rectangle what I show is the government. It's the government. And this has a power supply. it is getting a power. And so it's like a bulb. But you need to understand this bulb is on, but you also have to understand who is it switching it on, from where it is getting its energy from. For that you need to understand the constitution. Why? Constitution is the plan on which structures have been built. It is because of constitution is giving the power. This part is operating. So obviously the constitution also gives power to one more structure, that is the legislative. One more structure, that is the government, that is the executive. There is also another organ called as judiciary. And apart from that, it also gives empowerment to certain independent bodies, election commission, CAG or etc. So that is why we say this is the master plan. This is the main document. The entire organs, it's like your CPU. All other things is the parts. Understand? So obviously this constitution, this document, it is deriving legitimacy. Means we have all agreed upon, okay, we are going to work according to what it says. From where it is getting legitimacy? From the people. So that is why if you look at the preamble, it says, we the people of India. That is why we can say Indian constitution is also based on popular, but that is a different debate altogether, because it can be debated, saying that not the case. That's not our area of interest for now. That we'll do it when we come to part B of our syllabus. I'm just giving you an idea of what is polity. What is, when you study polity, what you are studying? You are studying the constitution. You are studying about legislative. That is what you study in Indian polity when you take. Understood? When you taught, like when we started topics like what? Fundamental rights, DPSP, who is legislative, who is executive, what is constitution. Did we start teaching you who is BJP, who is Congress, who is Modi, how they are fighting for power? No. But what is politics? Now this is a structure. But how in this structure things operate? That is what we call as politics. So if you say polity is a framework, you can say politics is the action. Understand? Within this framework, there is struggle for power. There is struggle to get hold of the executive. That process we call it as what? Politics. So now you can say, so farak kya hai? Means what is the difference here? Why do we need to know about politics here? No, you need to know about it. That is what we can say. There is something which is called, which is said, something which is said, which is unsaid. So let us think, especially for mains part. Prelims part, it's fine. But especially mains part, you can't just study the structure. You also have to be able to analyze this structure. You have to be also able to know why this structure is operating in this particular way. For that, you'll have to know the politics behind the polity. You understand? Governor is part of polity. But how governors are appointed is part of politics. If you tell I'm only going to study about governor, constitution, okay, constitution says that a person who is 35 years of age, citizen of India, can be appointed as a governor by president. The rest is all convention. But how that convention actually happens, there is a lot of politics behind it, because if you see most of the governors in India from before are always appointed by the president, by the person who is close to them. So when you are reading political science, it's not only study of polity, it is also a study of politics. That how politics happens. That is why if you go into your part B of your syllabus, they have not only included structure, they have also included the process. What is the process? If you take caste, religion, ethnicity, it's there in your syllabus. So you need to understand, why do people in India, instead of casting their vote, they vote their caste? Means why does caste plays a very important role in Indian politics? We are not saying in Indian polity, in Indian politics. So that's a basic difference between understanding what is polity and what is politics. Polity is what? Study of organization structure. See, one more thing, always don't try to by heart a definition. Sir, how it is given in the notes, like that only I will try to by heart. Then you are not in the right. You have to learn the art of expressing your ideas in your own words. It's fine. Instead of structure, you can use some other word. It doesn't mean they won't give marks. They will give marks as long as what your meaning is same. That's why I told. This is not science. This is social science. Understood? You can express in your own way, but you have to get just the idea. So obviously, what is polity? Polity is more focusing on understanding the structure and organization of the government. So when you're reading Indian polity, you're focusing more on what? Understanding the structure and organization of the Indian government. So understand the organization structure of the Indian government. What should be your principal book to study? Constitution. And that goes into even more other concepts, like not now it is not required. So it's like we'll go into constitutionalism. That's a different take. Okay, means you cannot say every constitution which is written will be based on the principle of constitutionalism, not necessary so. Understand? But for any constitution to promote the idea of democracy, it should be based on the principles of constitutionalism. So what is this constitutionalism? No, I'm not telling it's not only one thing, limited powers. There are other things, independent judiciary, etc. But you can simplify and say it is a set of values. It is a set of values that should be there. Now, why we are relating everything here to values? Now, to understand this, what is this political thought? You also first understand what is a value. So, let's also understand in a basic term, what do you mean by values? So, basically you read this in ethics also, right? Values. So, what is a value? He's telling it is a belief, okay. Anybody else? What do you mean by values? Moral value, you can say. But what is a value in simple terms? It can be used anywhere. I value your relation, meaning I'm giving importance to it. Understood? Meaning it is certain beliefs or etc. what you attach importance to. And values cannot be same everywhere. Values are what we can say can vary from a person to person. Okay, and values can also vary from subject to subject. Economically, value might be different. Politically, value might be different. Sociologically, value might be, means we say political values, social values, economic values. So obviously here we are largely focusing on understanding what? Political values. Now to have a basic idea that what is polity, what is politics, and now why we are discussing about values. So when you say political thought, what is the meaning of the word thought? Thinking is present. Thought which is already somebody has think about it. Not an ideology. Political thought is not an ideology. Ideology is different. That's the thing. The term is what you use. Political theory, political thought, political ideology, they're all different terms. They have different meanings to it. It is not one and the same, though it is clubbed together. Now you understand what is political. Now you are understanding what is thought. Thought is past. Thinking is present. Now, when you say political thought, we are not including thoughts of any one person. We are including thoughts of a group of people belonging to a particular age. connected to the ideas or values of political structure, institution, government that existed at that point of time. That is what we call as a political thought. And the other thing is that everybody thinks, everything who thinks, that will not become a thought, or everybody who thinks, he is not a thinker unless he is able to present his thinking, explain his thinking in a more systematic way that is, read by a larger section of population. Only those we call as thinkers. So you can say, even I have a lot of thoughts, sir, so am I a thinker? You can't be considered as a thinker unless you present your thoughts. So when you say Western political thought, means we are studying about political ideas presented by certain set of scholars belonging to a particular region, belonging to a particular time. Why we are telling a particular time? Because they might be influenced by the conditions of their times. This is where you have a scholar called as Lusky, Harold J. Lusky, who says that every political thinker, every political thinker is a child of his times. Every political thinker is a child of his times. So how do you interpret this statement? And what is Lusky trying to say? So for you, it is not important who is Lusky. It's more important what did he say. So he's saying what? Every political thinker. So for example, let us think the thinkers what we are reading. Plato, Aristotle, Machiavelli, examples. So every political thinker, Plato, Aristotle, they have been child of his times. What do you mean by that, child of his times? One at a time. Okay. Based on their thought. Okay. Okay. Very good. In plain simple, it's not about what they have taught. It's about when a child grows up, it is influenced by the conditions of its time. The parents might influence it. You understand? So every person here also, how their ideas would have developed, it would have influenced by the time period what they belong to. There can be many sources of influence on them. The conditions of that time might have shaped their thinking. So obviously, when you say political thought, we are also trying to understand the conditions of those times, to understand what led them to give these particular ideas. What led them to give this particular political notion at that point of time. So here, that is what we say, the entire ideas which emerged in that period by various thinkers, that we can call it as a political thought. So Western political thought means what? They are giving many emphasis to what? The thinkers that emerge from the West. So that is what we say, that in general, what we can mean by political thought. So that thought can vary from, okay, for example, we say Buddhist political thought. What does that mean? The political ideas that emerged during the phase of Buddhism in India. Understood? Or we say ancient Indian political thought. Means we are linking Manu, Kautilya, even Buddhist political thought can be brought under the category of what? Ancient period. What are the political ideas that emerged? So we are not looking into every other idea. We are only focusing on what? Political ideas given by these scholars at that point of time. So you have this, what you can say, scholar. So who says that, now then how do we differentiate between a political thought and a political theory? Understand? So your topic is also, there is also introduction to political theory. If you go by your syllabus, one is Western political thought. Then you have a list of scholars. But another topic you have what? Introduction to political theory. So you also have to now understand what do you mean by a political theory and how political theory is different from political thought. So for that you have one scholar called as Arnold Brecht. Arnold Brecht. Now easily here, one more thing. So in notes or even in content, whatever you read, you might have multiple scholars quoting multiple things. The question always remains is that should we read all of them? Not required to read all of them, but you can keep some of them in your name, because when you write your introductions, conclusions, you can make use of these scholars to quote. But what is the problem with reading all of them? You can't retain or memorize all of their sayings. So you can group them into what? You will have 5-6 people telling the same thing different ways. So instead of that, you just take one person from them, or try to select views which are contrary, and that you keep it in your notes. But if you same views what the person is giving, but you have 10 people there, what will happen? One, you will get confused which to use. Second one, you can't retain it because you need to see these quotes and all. When you will get you will get to use in the exam, right? If you have revised it 7 to 8 times, written lot of answers on it, then it will become very well ingrained in you. So that time what will happen? Automatically when you see a question, your mind will try to flash, okay, this is the content what I need to link. But if you have not internalized it, if you have not read multiple times, then you won't be able to use it in the exam. Neither your mind will work in such a way that when it sees the question, it won't flash to you that I could have written it. So many people, what they do is that they only collect and keep things. This is nice, okay. This is nice, it's okay. But what happens? It becomes one of your collection. Something for you to know about it, you should have used it regularly. You should have internalized it. Internalization, when it will happen over a period of time, if you keep using it regularly, it becomes internalized. So once it is internalized in your mind, subconsciously, when that question will come, your mind will flash it. Okay, this is something, you can use it here. Now what many people expect is that, I want to write like a topper. How? Directly, without lack of revision, without going through that process. Why the topper is able to do it? Because he has done his own notes. He has read it multiple times and then he has shortened it. Understood? So same way, now what Lusky said, every thinker is a child of his times. If you had used it 7-8 times, if you had thought about 7-8 times, then next time when a question will come in a conclusion or your introduction, you will get to know where you can use Lusky. Otherwise, you will be still wondering who is Lusky. Or some people, what they will do also is that try to get photos of these scholars and try to look at these scholars and tell I will remember him. That is all. I don't know. I don't believe in that. If you see the photo of Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates, you will get confused who is whom, who is what. And that is not required also. UPSC is not going to show a card and say identify this fellow. Who is Lusky in this? Just know about the idea, just know about what was his thought process, from which perspective he speaks. So here you have Arnold Brecht. Okay, now let us see what he says about theory. I'm not doing political theory. What he says, what is a theory? Because theory, you would already known about a theory even before reading political theory. Why? Because I think if you are in a science student, there are many theories also there, right? So for example, you have, I think in geography, you have, what is that? This earth is there, na? Huh? Yeah, Big Bang theory, you have continental drift theory. You have already read different theories. So theories is not only related to a subject called as politics, theory in general. So first you have to understand what exactly is a theory. Then we'll go on to understand what is a political theory. It's easy. Once if you understand theory, just connect the word political. What is word political? Already read now. Not polity, I'm telling. The word political, affairs of a city-state, affairs of a nation-state, affairs of something which is concerning public. Now what he says, theory is, he says, theory is a thinker's entire teaching on a subject, entire teaching on a subject which includes description, descriptions of facts, explanation, conception of history, value judgment, and proposed goal. So this is what Arnold Brecht, he says that what is a theory? He says theory is a thinker's entire teaching on a particular subject, which includes what? Description of facts, explanation, conception of history, his value judgment, and proposed goal. It might look complex, what he's saying, but if you just simplify it, take example of continental drift theory. Description of a fact. Continents are moving apart. Why are they moving apart? He is given an explanation to it. Conception of history means taken historically, say Pangea was there, later you can say continents started moving. And value judgment, you can say value judgment in actually scientific subjects don't play a huge role, but in social science subjects they do play a huge role. Value judgment means his belief system, what he believes, what he gives importance to. Proposed goal means what they want to achieve. Okay, so usually what happens in science? In science usually we don't have proposed goal and all. In social science you have a proposed goal, meaning let us take for an example, you're a theorist. Now in India, you want to make a study, especially about Indian politics. And your study is focusing on a fact, saying that caste has played a very key role in determining political power. That's a fact. Now you are trying to explain in your theory, why do people vote for their particular caste? And you might also take a time period and try to explain how this has been functioning. And you might also back your theory by collection of certain data to show, okay, look at the ticket was given to person from this particular caste, his winning ratio was this much. And maybe in your theory you also go on to say whether it is good or bad. You understand? You are also making an opinion whether people voting for their particular caste, is it a good thing for politics or is it a bad thing for politics? And maybe you will also give a proposed goal saying that what kind of reforms we can bring to ensure that more importance has to be given not to the identity politics but also to developmental politics. That's a theory, what you can, as an individual, you can present. So this is what we say in general, theory. He told only theory. Now what is a political theory? Same thing what we said, you are doing with respect to politics. That becomes what? Political theory. The same thing you did in anthropology. It becomes a theory related to that particular subject. So understood? Whereas a thought is nothing but a set of ideas given by a set of scholars belong to certain time period, that we call as a political thought. So an entire political thought can also within it include many political theories, because a political theory is more attributed to an individual, or it not might be on any individual. One individual would have presented a major idea, others would have either added on to that particular theory, means brought slight modification into that particular theory. Means you have presented one theory, but let us say now with time you can also add new things into that particular theory. So that is what we call as a political theory. Now to understand more in depth regarding political theory, we need to understand a political theory comprises of what? Because now when you read there, I told historical conception, facts, value, what is that, value judgment, etc. So obviously now, what exactly is a political theory? What is political theory comprising of? So there has been a huge debate in the field of what you can say political science. If you see, the subject is called as what? Political science. But you are also reading here what? Political theory. So point is that what is so scientific about politics? Why we are calling this as a science? Or is this subject more philosophical by nature? So that is what there is a debate saying that whether political theory is a philosophy or whether political theory is a science. You understand? Whether political theory is a philosophy or a science. A quick summary to this question is that what today scholars within the subject have come to an agreement or come to a conclusion that it is both philosophical as well as scientific. Meaning a political theory comprises of both political philosophy as well as political science. So earlier, so when you read Plato, Socrates, the earliest scholars, the theories what they presented was bit more tilted towards philosophy. But as you go with age, means when Renaissance happened in Europe, the emergence of modern era, now you can say the subject started to take a tilt towards science. So that is what you read later in your syllabus. There is this thing called as behavioralism. In your syllabus copy it is there, behavioralism. That was in 1940s. In 1940s, there will be a debate saying that we should completely remove philosophy from the field of politics. We have to make the subject completely scientific by nature, like pure science, how biology is there, how chemistry is there. And that during that period, they'll develop a lot of approaches, of scientific approaches to understand politics. But by 1960s, what they will understand is that trying to make the subject too scientific also will destroy the subject. And that is when they will decide, okay, we need to bring back philosophical components into it. And that is when they'll come to a conclusion that political theory comprises of what? Both political philosophy or political science. And that is when you have a scholar called as Andrew Hacker. Andrew Hacker, who says every theorist, every political theorist is partly a philosopher and partly a scientist. What he says, every political theorist is partly a philosopher, partly a scientist. So why does he say like that? Because he has to do two works. He has to do one work of a philosopher, then other he'll have to do a work of a scientist. Now we'll have to understand, okay, what is this work of a philosopher? What is the work of a scientist? What is the relation between philosophy and science to this subject? So how political theory comprises of both? Meaning today we can say some theories might be scientific theories, some theories might be also philosophical by nature, some theories might be also comprising both. For example, let us take, if you ask me, sir, give me an example. What is completely a philosophical theory, what is completely a scientific theory, and what is a combination of both? Now, yesterday I told about Plato, or in the last class. Plato told he wanted this ideal world, materialism. Can you prove scientifically whatever he said? Can you show me the human soul? He told matter is not real, ideas are important, ideas is... Can you give evidence for it? Means all this you can only understand based on logic. There is no evidence for it. Right? That is more of a philosophical theory. I'll get into it more deeper. Simple terms. What is a philosophical theory? Something which is based on values. In simple terms, something which is based on values. Values cannot be scientifically proved. Now, what is a scientific theory? What is a scientific theory? So now let us take, so when will the West Bengal election will end? Oh? Anything, whatever, next week or something it will end. That time the media channels will come out with something called as exit poll. And in the exit poll they are going to make a prediction, which might come true, which might come false. But they are not predicting blindly, saying that in pin, septipin, in pin out, who will win. They would have developed tools, scientific tools, data. They will collect the data, they will verify the data, and then based on their data, they are going to make a prediction, saying that so and so party might win the election. This is a scientific theory. So when I told, when it reached the peak of behavioralism, where they told science is only important. Why? Because you can verify it. Tomorrow he'll ask, so how can you say this party is going to win? I'll give him the data. Look, these are the respondents what we had. These are the areas what we have taken. Now this is a clear-cut indication that this might happen. Might happen. It will not 100% it will happen. They have provided evidence for him. Now he might ask, whom did you interview? Give me evidence. I might give him evidence. See, these are the people whom I interviewed. Why? Because for theories to be scientific, you need evidence. That the evidence should be verified. You understood? So it's not blindly based on my opinion. See, for me, there might be a personal opinion. I want this party to win. But my scientific study is showing that that party is not going to win, this party is going to win. You understand? In a scientific theory, there is no values involved. Value, I don't know. What is the meaning of value? Value means, I like this thing. So whenever you say it is value, you are speaking about good or bad. Why? What is good for me might be bad for you. What is bad for you might be good for me. So values can never be verified. So for example, let us think. Now, is political science in insights good or bad? That's based on each individual. That you can never verify. Half of them might say it is good, half of them might say it's bad, half of them might say it is good in this regard, it is bad in this regard. Now, if we say the political science classes in insights started from April 25th, is it true or is it false? It's a scientific question. Because there cannot be two answers to it. There should be only one answer. It is either yes or either no. Now he says yes, he says no. Now both will have to prove their thing. So he will bring the recording of the class and say the class happened on 25th. Proved. You understood? So in a scientific theory, you are not having any kind of values. You understood? What is philosophy? What is science? Philosophy is more attached to values. Science is more attached to facts. Now, why this Andrew Acker, he said, both philosophy and science should be part of the subject, because he felt that if you take only scientific thing, only scientific means only you are measuring and telling, okay, this is there. So what they also believe that this subject cannot be reduced to natural science like physics, chemistry or etc. Why? Because we are speaking about politics. We are speaking about our future. So obviously, any person who is also presenting a scientific theory should also prescribe our values, saying that, okay, see, these are the things which are going wrong, but you should have a goal also. This is what we need to achieve. Your goal, your role will not end by saying that, okay, see, this is the data. Okay, people are voting on caste, proved. No, you have to make an opinion now, whether it is good or whether it is bad. And that is why today there is a large understanding that when we say political theory, it comprises of what? Both political philosophy and it also comprises of what? Political science. This is to just explain in a summarized way that when you write about what is political theory, because questions will come in the exam, comment on political theory. So one, you need to have an introduction. Okay, so what is an introduction? That is, there will be in your notes. For example, you take here, you have Blue Hen, one person who defines what is political theory. So why I am telling, sir, why can't there be only one definition? Come back to saying, this is not science, this is social science. Different people can explain the same phenomenon differently. Now, according to Blue Hen, what is political theory according to him? He says it's an abstract model for political order. It's an abstract model for political order and a guide for systematic analysis, systematic collection and analysis of political data. So let's decipher his definition. What Blue Hen is saying, that it's an abstract model for political order, a guide for systematic collection and analysis of political data. So when you say it's an abstract model for a political order, means he's prescribing a particular political model, saying, okay, this is the abstract model. But you also look at his definition, he's also including scientific elements. He's saying that what? It's a guide also for systematic collection and analysis of political data. So if you go by his definition, both components are there when he describes what is a political theory. Same we have one more scholar who defines political theory, Andrew Hacker. What he says? He says political theory is a dispassionate and disinterested study of a political phenomenon. Dispassionate and disinterested study of political phenomenon. So if you look at his definition has a different meaning together. So what does he mean by that? Political theory is a dispassionate and a disinterested search for a study of political phenomenon. I'll explain what does he mean by that. Let us think, for example, he is a Kattar Hindutvavadi. And let us think he is a, what you can say, this Kattar opposition. Now let us think, now there is a political phenomenon that has happened. Let us think that is a communal right that has happened. Now both of them have to present their own theory based on it. What is the theory? You read now, definition of the theory. Explaining a political phenomenon, having a data regarding, etc., etc. Now this is where you need to understand what's the difference between a theorist and that time somebody didn't know what is a political ideology. That time I asked what is the difference between political theory and political ideology. The difference lies here with what Hacker says. In a political ideology, like a theory, you can also do a study. But here, your study is driven by a passionate and an interested search for establishing a particular political order. Meaning, you're passionate. You have a liking towards something. You're interested. Why you are interested? Because if that order is established, you might benefit out of it. You might get political power out of it. And that is why you will base your theory. So, to give an example for it, for example, if you take the both working of the BJP and the Congress in Indian politics, both of them profess a particular value system. Both of them, like BJP says that a Hindu Rashtra is ideally what, even though if there is the parent organization, the RSS, the Congress says that no, we want to keep it a secular nation, etc. But are both of them speaking in terms of a dispassionate or a disinterested search for a better society? No, it's a passionate, interested search. Why? Because it's more about grabbing political power. So in grabbing political power, the theory what you might be giving, the idea what might be giving, it might be biased, or it might be inclined towards certain values. So for example, you can take like this, the writings in this publication called as Swarajya, the writing in this publication called as Wire, both may claim themselves to be what, okay, we are representing the truth. But you can say both of them, they will not agree if you question them. They will tell, no, we are presenting an unbiased thing. Both of them, there is a slight tilt towards Wire. You will find always them writing towards pro-Congress. Swarajya, you will find writing them always pro the Bharatiya Janata Party. Because again, you have to decipher them. Decipher them means go into their base, saying that where they are getting all the funding from. For example, you can say Dhruv Rate. You will understand once you read Gramsci. There is something called as organic intellectuals. What he says, any theories you present, any ideas you present, they might appear to be very neutral. They might appear to be saying that, okay, we are bringing out the truth. Yes, they are doing that, but they are not bringing out the entire truth. They are just bringing out the truth of one particular side. It's correct. It's good. In a way, at least you know one thing. But they are also hiding the facts about other, like, who is inspiring him to take a particular, okay, how many videos has Dhruv Rate done on Congress ruled states? What is his take on Congress ruled states? So is it only one party is already corrupt in India? We are not telling the ruling party is good. We are telling, does an unbiased job of exposing both things? Why does he get so much anger about Dhurandhar? But there are also many other movies which have been propaganda movies. Why suddenly now it sparks in him? I have to. Now, for example, Chadda, for him all this time was an ideal politician. Overnight, Chadda became Chaddi for him. Overnight, one single decision you can say. So, what Andrew Acker says that any political theorist should be disinterested. What is disinterested? When he presents the theory, when he is trying to explain the theory, he should not have any personal bias. Or from the theory, he doesn't have any personal benefit. He is dispassionate. What is dispassionate? You are going to remove your value system and going to make a honest study and going to explain. Let us say, even if the theory what you are doing, the study what you are doing, it is going against your own belief system. So that is why he says that when he gives this definition of what is a political, that's why I told you, you need to understand every person is giving the definition in their own aspect. Maybe when Bluhen gave the definition, he is giving the definition in aspect of the debate between whether philosophy is important or whether science is important. When Hacker is giving this definition, he is trying to differentiate between what is a political ideology and what is a political theory. You understand? It's not like science. What is photosynthesis? Plants absorb carbon dioxide, give out oxygen. This is one definition. Sir, I'm going to biotic centrality. That is science. In social science, there is always a context. And that is why we say that sometimes students, why they find initial time difficult to adjust social science, because when they would have been from science background, their brain won't work that way. They'll be telling, Bapre, why there are 4 definitions here? Or neither they understand in what context they would have given. So this fellow's context is what? Through his definition, you can also derive, he's differentiating between what? Political theory and political ideology. So what is a political theory? A dispassionate, disinterest search for a better society, or you can say study of a political phenomenon. But what is a political ideology? It is a passionate, interested search to establish or study a political phenomenon. And obviously it is a passionate and interested. See, what is a political ideology also need to understand. Ideology means idea. So a person who believes in a particular ideology, half of his brain won't work. In that sense, his brain works in such a way that it only accepts whatever is good regarding that particular idea. His brain switches off the moment you try to criticize that particular idea. He won't ready to accept it. You understand? There is, in a political ideology, there is no more search for a truth. Done. You believe the system is correct. End. So that is what we can say. We cannot say every ideology is this. There can be ideologies which can be also having theoretical aspect. Feminism is an ideology, but feminism also questions patriarchy, etc. But we can take certain ideologies is already fixed. Let us take the fascists. Or on the other hand, you say Marxists. Fascists and Marxists. There is no difference in either of them. Many people will draw difference. No, fascists are different, we Marxists are different. No, I don't find any difference between fascists and Marxists. Both use violence to justify what they believe in. Marxists justify saying that we are going to create an equal society, a stateless society, casteless society. So that violence is the midwife of revolution, so it is justified. Fascists, on the other hand, they believe that what? State is everything for you, state is supreme, nothing beyond the state, what Mussolini said, nothing above the state, nothing beyond the state, nothing after the state, everything is within the state. We use violence to suppress you and make you live. So one is telling that we are going to create a stateless society by using violence, the other is telling that we are going to create an ideal society by using violence. But what is common in both of them is violence. And what is in common both of them? Both of them refuse to look into any idea beyond their idea. That is what we say when you wear the ideological lens. You know, Nodidella haldi ansute. The same way, when you wear the lens of a political ideology, whatever you see, you are only looking from that lens. So what is a biased lens we are seeing? So for example, let us take now, when some crime happens, the right wingers will first look at whether it's a Muslim. I told you before only, these people, they'll start with it. Left winger will be first identifying whether he is a Hindu. Told you, or he's an upper caste. Upper caste will dominate the lower caste. Means their brain is wired in such a way that they are not ready to go beyond that. There might be reasons beyond it. For example, let us take some killed a girl. It might be a personal issue what they had. It might not be connected to the religions. You are understanding? The story might be added later. When they fell in love and they might have cheated, he would have murdered, etc. It might be his personal grudge, personal hatredness. He might have not thought in a way that, okay, she's a Hindu, I need to trap her, then I need to kill her. But post-mortem what you do is that, okay, now this is love jihad. It might be true, might be not true, but I'm telling just an attach. Or let us think now some Hindu killed somebody, some fellow, he killed. Now you attach that tag, what? This is what all Brahmins are. So in both ideas, your idea is fixed. So you don't ready to accept any idea that is counter to your belief system. Why? Because you are always, there is a passionate, interested search for establishing a political order. So that is what Andrew Acker says, the end of political ideology is to grab political power. The end of a political theory is not to grab political power. The end of a political theory is to do a dispassionate, disinterested search for a political phenomenon, and that theory can aid the society in building a better. So understood what is the difference between political theory and political ideology. But you need to read it multiple times. Why? Because these are all confusing terms. Because now it might be easy for you to understand because I have explained it. But let us say when you go back home, again you'll start getting confused. For that, what you'll have to do repeated divisions. Again, a quick summary. You understood what is the word politics and what is the word polity. So where it has been taken from? The Greek word called as polis. So what was polis at that point of time? referring to study of the affairs of the city state. So what is polity and what is politics? Polity is the study of structure, organization of the government. What is politics? Politics is about understanding the mechanism, that how these structures work, how power operates. Okay, that is why some say, see again, see when we come to the definition of politics also, it's a very broad term. It's a very broad term. So no, see why I tell some people will start writing answer now only, na? How they will start writing answer. Now to your satisfaction, I can give a question and tell write and come. What is the difference between politics and polity? I will go back home and write same thing what we discussed in the class and bring it back and show, sir, how is my answer, sir? Is it very nice? Logical question is that, has this question come in the exam? For that, what you will have to check? Previous year questions. Of course, you need to read this to understand the basic, but don't expect UPSC to ask a question, right? If they ask, fine, you can write because you know the basics well. But be prepared also to answer advanced questions what they're going to ask. But to answer this question, you can't answer it only the knowledge what you have now. One of the previous year question is there on the same topic what we are discussing, politics. They've told something like this. The word politics or the word political has different meanings at different times in the evolution of the field of political science. Comment. What they was, the word politics or the word political has had different meaning, and what is that? What has he said? Yeah, in the evolution of the field of political science. Now, you can't answer this question unless you have done your entire reading of paper on party. So you understood the difference. That thing is that no subject or no optional, let it be any optional, let it be Kannada, Anthro, Socio, Political Science, or even Geography or Public Administration, there is nothing like that you are not scoring in that optional. Or that optional automatically will not give you scores. Unless you have understood how the trend of that optional is changing and you are prepared accordingly. I will tell you what the UPSC has done. Earlier what UPSC used to do in 2013, 2012, they used to ask questions more on topic wise. Plato, philosopher king, comment. Let us say, no, this fellow has not read Machiavelli, skipped. He'll survive in that exam. Why? Because they have not asked a question on Machiavelli, he has left Machiavelli. But now how they are asking questions is that, without reading Machiavelli, you can't answer this question in a very holistic way. Means unless you have read every topic, because they are asking the question how the word politics has evolved in the field of political science with different meaning at different time. So now, one reading what you did, till now what you have read. During Athens, what did the word politics means? Study of city-state. Next you are going to read about Machiavelli. Then you will understand for him what did politics mean. For him politics is all about power. Machiavelli was the first person to give this meaning to politics. Because here we told politics is a functioning. No, Machiavelli is the first person in, or some people say, even before Machiavelli it was Kautilya. You understand, like this Nehru once he said, Kautilya is the Indian Machiavelli. For that there is an Indian historian called as Upinder Singh. He's written a book called as The Violence in Ancient India or something like that. He counter argues saying that you can't say like that. It should be the other way around. It is Machiavelli who is the Italian Kautilya. Why? Because there are similarities between what Machiavelli and Kautilya says, but Kautilya is the first person, because he wrote this book ages back before, because Machiavelli is more of a 16th century thinker. But coming to the Western thinkers, the first scholar to exclusively see politics as power was none other than Machiavelli. Because yesterday when we discussed bit about Plato, you could have got a sense. He's more philosophical. He's speaking more about values, how we should be, this fellow is not like that. He says central to politics is only power. Do anything to get power. There should be no room for values. You understand? That is what we call as Machiavellian politics. It's very different from Gandhian politics. Gandhian politics will speak more about values. Means are as important as the end. Machiavelli is not like that. He says use any mean. That you'll understand when you read Machiavelli. He says why he gave that idea. He writes a book called as Prince. It's a guidelines written to anybody who wants to become a ruler. And that is what many say, that many of them might criticize Machiavelli because he has been criticized, saying that he is a speaker of the evil, he is the teacher of the devil. Some say that they hated him so much, why? Because just he spoke the reality of humans. And that is what you can say in present world order also. Who will get political power is only those people who are realists. Only those who believe that for us, power is the end. That is what we say. If you do present politics, on Gandhian politics, era has changed. People also are not like that. Everybody is benefited. Voter is getting his money. Politician is getting his power. Simple. So end of the goal is that use any means. Dhand, Ved. But end of the day, get political power. So for him, that is what politics meant. But again, if you go back in ages, then you have people like John Locke, J.S. Mill. They give a different perspective of politics. They speak about politics more in terms of people controlling the government. So you read now, constitutionalism, the idea of a limited state. The first ever thinker to speak out the idea of limited state was John Locke. Correct? J.S. Mill. But again, if you look at next, you will read out Marx. Now again, your idea of politics will change. Marx gives a different perspective. He says that to understand politics, he says politics is just a reflection. It's a reflection of what? He says economics. He says to understand politics, you need to understand economics. That is why he brings a term called as political economy. Means now I am just summarizing, but when you read Marx in detail, entire Marx, you will understand. For Marx, the simple is logic. Political power is a reflection of economic power. Whoever has economic power, he will go on to get political power. So his idea is that in order to make everybody politically equal, first you have to make everybody economically equal. Unless you are not able to do that, political power will always remain with the rich. Then you have Gramsci. He gives a new idea of the word politics. Means he modifies what Marx told. Marx had told economics is a reflection of political power, but this fellow said not necessarily. It's not only that political power is a direct reflection of economic power. He speaks about ideological power, the power of ideas. Because earlier I told you, Marx is a materialist. He believes that ideas are shaped by matter. He does not believe that ideas can shape matter. But Gramsci shows the other way around. Even he is a Marxist, means follower of Marx. But he says no, Marx is wrong in one aspect. Marx has completely ignored the role of ideas. He says no, ideas are very important. Ideas play a very key role in maintaining political power. Then you read about Hannah Arendt. She gives a completely different meaning of the word politics. For her, politics means people. For politics means not power, empowerment. Then you read about feminists. They say, who told politics is only for public sphere? Personal is also political, means power also operates in your personal. So when you write that answer, you should have covered from Plato to feminists. And when you are able to do it, if you have understood all of them. Now what will happen in current format? Now, people would have only prepared in their old format. What is old format? I would have left feminism. I'll skip Gramsci. Now when you want to write this answer, let us think this fellow has read everything. He clearly writes how politics has evolved. Now this fellow he has not read everything, he has skipped in bits and pieces. He can't write a holistic answer, and obviously your scores will go down. And first thing what they will blame, the scores will go down. That is what we say when you are prepared for UPSC also, you should be dispassionate, disinterested, search for a better answer. If it is a passionate, ನನ್ನ answer ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ, my answer is good. Sir, my answer is excellent. Defending your answer, saying that, no, I have not learned, no, sir, for this stage, this is very good. I am not a person who works like that because I don't believe results will come that way. It is only panning out appeasement. What politics they do, appeasement, right? Same thing is done here, appeasing the not so smart ones. Why? Because if you don't appease them, they get scared immediately. If you go and attack them saying, no, this is not how you write the answer, they'll get scared. Third thing what he told, fear. All individuals, including me, including you, we might put up a brave face, but always there's an underlying fear unless you address that fear. You need to address that fear. Fear is something which is internal. You need to address that thing. It means I'm not telling build body or etc. Mindset problem. What is causing you that fear? Fear of failure. So if you don't fear failure, saying that okay, it's fine, I'll accept I'm the worst writer in the entire class. So that's what I say. Improvement will start with the first step of acceptance. As long as you are not able to accept, we can't change you also. There can be three kinds of students. One, too dumb, doesn't know anything, but he is ready to listen to what you say. If not today, maybe 2 years down the line, he might create some changes. Second one, very smart. He knows what he wants. He is only having that clarity. He needs little help of you. He will survive on his own. Third are the biggest losers. Neither they know what is wanted, neither they are ready to accept what somebody tells them. They continue to believe what we believe is 100% correct. That is all. So that's why I told, even when you look at your answer, there should be a dispassionate, disinterested search for a better answer. Same way you should be a judge of your answer, not advocate of your answer. Because if you're an advocate of your answer, you will defend your answer. If you're a judge of your answer, you're ready to look into what are the lackings in your answer. So it's all about mindset. Understood? So that's why I told. The topic what we are discussing, politics and polity, will be a very small topic. But this has come in exam. They have told something, I'm not knowing the exact question, but this is how the question sounds. Discuss or critically examine how the meaning of the word political has evolved in the field of political science. So to write this answer, you cannot write at this stage of time. Why you can't write this stage of time? At this stage, you only read the basic. What is the basic? What is the difference between politics and polity? But as you read now, next, you have to always keep in back of your mind how the meaning of the word politics is changing. So it has changed now, city-state. Now today we are speaking about nation-state. Earlier, it was only public sphere. But today feminists have broadened the definition. They have told, why not include private sphere? So Machiavelli defined politics in terms of power, right? It is mainly about study of power relations. What is power? Let's go even more basic. What is power? Power is the ability of a person to influence or control another person. That is the definition of power. So what feminists said, don't you think power also operates in your houses? Patriarchy is how men control women. So now why this definition is important? Earlier it was said the state should only involve in what is public. State should not involve in your private sphere. That is what you traditionally say. The state will stop at the entrance of your door. It will not enter inside your door. You have privacy there. What feminists they brought in saying that in the name of privacy, this is also the responsibility of the state. Domestic violence, dowry, marital rape, these are also concerning state. That is why Carol Henich, a feminist, told personal is political. So they argued that what break this public-private divide. And they told power is everywhere. Power is happening within your households. So that is why Aristotle, he called political science as master science, because it deals with almost everything. From your personal life to your public life. Got it? So that's why I told, these kind of understanding you have to evolve, you have to link. That's why I told, once you have read one topic, don't just skip that topic and move on to the next topic. There is a logical connection between all topics, and if you're able to understand all this, you will find this paper so much easy. You're understanding? So you will be like a person who does not depend which question they should ask. You will start enjoying. Let them ask any question. I know how to write very differently. Who will struggle with writing? One who does not have those ideas. They want a question in a particular way. They hope that let UPSC come out with a easy paper. So again, easy, difficult is again speculative. So understood what is the difference between politics and polity. That's what I told. Politics is a very, very broad term. It can have multiple meanings to it. Then you wrote about what is political thought. What is a political thought? Set of ideas given by set of scholars belonging to a certain time period based on the norms and values of that time period, that we call as political thought. And what is Western political thought? The thinkers who come from the West, Western political thought. So what is a political theory? Yeah, one you can say it involves both philosophy and science, but what is a political theory? He explained, who is that? Arnold Brecht, he gave a definition. It involves what? Explanation of a political phenomenon. It should have facts. It should have your value judgment. That is what he said is a political theory. And political theory can comprise of two components. What is that? Political philosophy and political science. Okay. And you have Andrew Hacker, who defined political theory as what? It is a disinterested, dispassionate study of a political phenomenon. And you had one more person. Who was it? Blue Hen. What did he define political theory as? It's an abstract political model, and which is a guide for a systematic collection and analysis of. One more thing. See, don't think that you have to exactly write every word what is there in the notes. Even if you are able to recollect, reproduce 30% of it, and you are able to quote it in the right way, because you are not verbatim quoting exactly them. You understand? So nobody will penalize you for it. Oh, this word he has replaced it with this word. No, it is completely fine. Understood? So you can use that, because it is not, that's what, this is not a research paper. It's just an answer. So in an answer, what is more important? You need to be communicating to the evaluator what is the point that you are trying to make. Got what is a political theory definition? Now, let's also look and understand, why do we need political theory? What is the implications of a political theory? Now you can only logically think, you don't need to again subscribe to any book or etc. What in general we say, what is a political theory? Or why do we need a political theory? You understood what is a political theory, why do we need it? To maintain, correct, to maintain social order. So let us think from basic level. Somebody also does not know what is a social order, because we use the word political order, we use the word social order, and in economics you have heard the word economic order. In international relations you have heard this world order. What do you mean by all these terms? World order, political order, social order, economic order. So what is an order? Let's go basic. What is an order? Order means the rules of arrangement. It's an arrangement. Circle can be one order, square can be one order. Simple terms, what is an order? It's an arrangement. Now what did he tell? He told maintaining social order, meaning our society is organized in a particular way based on certain rules and regulation what we have. So political theory should help in what? It should help in maintaining the social order. Why? Because social order can be disrupted now. Communal violence can happen, communal rights can happen, caste conflict can happen, fight between two people can happen. If that happens, what is going to happen? The order gets affected. And what political theory helps in? analyzing it, why this issue is happening, what we need to do to maintain this particular order. Same thing, economic order. Economic order means how economic resources are distributed. What is a world order? How power is distributed in international politics. We say unipolar. What is unipolar? The power is concentrated in hands of one particular country, that is United States of America. What is bipolar? Cold War, you can say the world was, the power was distributed between two major powers, USA and USSR. What is multipolar? Power at multiple things. So order means there is a systematic way things are arranged or organized. Now, what is the role of the political theory? Political theory helps you to maintaining the social order. Then, what is the other thing? What else it will help it? Correct. So you can say political theory can also play a key role in resolving political conflicts. How? To give you an example, let us take, NCRT book is the best book. If you read NCRT, you'll realize that one. I think in NCRT book, they have given you two examples. One of, I think, Belgium, the other of Sri Lanka. The story of two different societies having similar problems, but how they took a different route. So in both countries were multicultural societies. In one country, that is Belgium, you can find that there was not much conflicts between different communities. There was greater degree of trust. They were able to live together, coexist together. But in Sri Lanka, on the other hand, what happened? It led to many years of conflict between the Tamilians and the Sinhalese, which also took the shape of a terror group called as LTTE. Why? And how political theory can help us to solve this problem. Go back to the definition of political theory. Dispassionate, disinterested, sir, one can be that. Or you can say understanding or explaining a particular political phenomenon, saying that why this is happening and trying to give an ideal solution for it. So obviously in Belgium, very soon they realized that when there is a multicultural society, for the government to gain legitimacy and the government to continue peacefully, you need to give representation to all the major communities which are living within that particular society, at least symbolically. The argument remains is that you can say, sir, what will happen now? Women reservation, right? Some people might be of the opinion, hey, what will happen, sir? 33% reservation anyway, Pati Panchayat. No, at least symbolically, there are, if the Indian population is comprising of 49% of women, at least symbolically, you need to have 49% of women in parliament as their representatives. Correct, right? So, for example, let us say the Muslim population in India is around, I think, 16 to 18%, or maybe wrong, 14 to 18%, whatever. But what is the representation of the Muslims in the Indian parliament? What is the representation? It is less than 4%. So now what do you mean by dispassionate and disinterested? So for example, let us think my future might be with BJP only. Never know. In future, who knows? Like Vinay sir. But as long as I'm a teacher here, I cannot completely speak something that is supporting that party. That's not a job of a theorist. Theorists should look just at the problem. There should be no party lens. So in a democracy, in 2019, BJP being the largest political party in India, having more than 300 odd MPs, did not have a single Muslim MP from the ruling party. So sometimes symbolism will work. You understand? You are not able to win. Make them Rajya Sabha member, make them a minister within your cabinet. Because that is what we call as Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. See, values and rules are different. You might speak from the rules. Rules means that nowhere there is a written thing that a party has to give ticket to Muslims. Is it given, sir? No, it is not given. We won't give you also. Why? Because that community will not vote for us. Okay, it might be. Or if we give them ticket, the majority will turn around against it. So that is what we say. Values are different. Politics is different. And that's why I told there is a debate between two types of politics. One, what we can say, the Gandhian politics. The other is the Machiavellian politics. Again, that's why I told in India today, the Gandhian politics is gone. It's more about Machiavellian politics. End of the day, you look at, will we get power? You understand? So, in Belgium, what they did, symbolically, they made sure they reserved seats according to their community. Means, this position should be given to person from this ethnic group. So obviously what happened in Belgium, all ethnic groups are represented in their parliament. So the trust of the people or the community on that government increased. And that is why they didn't feel the need to use a violent path and rebel against the state. But what happened in Sri Lanka? In Sri Lanka, the Sinhalese started dominating, choking the Tamilians. Speaking the language of what? Us versus them. You don't have the rights over these resources. Why? Because you are all outsiders. Not trying to gain the trust of the community. How you can gain trust? Simple, na? Trust can be gained. Let us think, for example, somebody is not trusting you from 100 years. Tomorrow I go give them a chocolate. I can't expect them to trust me tomorrow itself. You have to keep going at it without expectations. That is when trust will be gained. That is how trust you will, in ethics they'll ask now, how to build trust. One factor to build trust, you have to, who is not trusting you? Either it is your enemy or somebody who doesn't know you. How do you gain your trust? Three things. Keep up the promises what you have done. Go one step ahead, in spite if there is no reciprocation. So for example, let us say now India and Bangladesh, there is some element of trust deficit. Why? Because a new government has come into power in Bangladesh. Now that is what New Delhi correctly is doing, is what reaching out to the new government in Bangladesh without any kind of expectation, saying that, okay, we are going to stand with you no matter what you do. It will take time for the new government to Bangladesh, because the world, they in their mind what is there, okay, the Indian state has always stood with Sheikh Hasina. So what is the guarantee that Indian government tomorrow will not try to create some kind of frictions within Bangladesh and bring back Sheikh Hasina? For that we need to win their trust. To win their trust, we have to show them that we don't have any expectation from them. You be close to China if you want, but we'll continue to what? Reach out in your times of needs. And you'll get your opportunity. Understood? Because things can change. At one point of time, Taliban-India relationship was, many people thought with coming back of Taliban, India lost its strategic foothold in Afghanistan. But today things are different. India is actually has a greater strategic foothold compared to Pakistan, because Pakistan is fighting Taliban along the Durand line. To tell that it is not an trust has completely brought between India and Taliban, but still we are trying to work with them. So that is what we can say. In Sri Lanka, in the NCRT book only they give you, what happened? They did not look into the building trust of the Tamilians. So how political theory can aid? Political theory can help you to explain mechanism that especially in multicultural society, how do we resolve conflicts? And to resolve conflicts, always violence should not be the first path. And that is what political theory will help you. It will help you in what? Resolving social conflicts or political conflicts. That's why I told, don't try to by heart everything, just try to think, develop your thinking abilities. Because this mains exam is all about thinking. If your thinking is very developed, you are unstoppable in the mains. But your thinking is not developed, then it is very difficult. Answering UPSC questions without having proper thing. You need to think. Think means you have to logically understand. Okay, then what else is the importance of political theory? Correct? Very good. Very good. Both points you can add. The other important idea of political theory is that contribution, political theory prescribes certain values for an ideal society. Because when we define political theory, it includes both science, philosophy. Philosophy involves means value, prescription. So as he said, if you look at political theories, it has offered certain values for an ideal society, such as what? Liberty, equality, and eternity. And as he said, I think Sam, it will also help you to what? Predict the future, predict what is the possible outcomes that is going to happen. Because if you have that predictive element, you can be prepared to tackle in any kind of future social or political problems that can come out. So it helps in what? Predicting the future outcomes and the solutions for it. So this is what you can say, what is the significance of political theory. Okay, they've asked these questions once in exam. Comment on the significance of political theory. So what I would suggest is that every topic what you read, use this methodology, anything, GS, optional, means. Always try to prepare through questions. Don't try to blindly read. Because when you blindly read, you don't have a direction to what you are reading. Or you don't have clarity what you read, where you are going to use it. One main difference between prelims and mains, prelims is objective, mains is subjective. Meaning, let us think now you read political theory, you read what is political theory, that's it, you read in India. So I'll tell you how you need to build your notes. Maybe in notes I have covered certain aspect. Maybe I would have not thought about an angle what UPSC might have asked or will ask. So when you look from that angle, now what you need to read about political theory, plain and simple. Because now we had a lot of explanation, what is politics, what is polity, what is political theory, what is political thought. When you write an answer, all that background is useless. That background is only useful for what? Understanding the term politics. But when you write an answer, you have to write it within 150 words for a 10 mark. I mean, to the point you have to be. So here to write any answer for me on political theory, first of all I have to know what kind of questions have come. That is where my PYQ analysis will help. Once, means I don't know the answer, but I know which direction questions have been asked. So let us think they would have asked question on, I need to write about what is political theory. Then they would have asked question, what are the components of political theory? What are the components? Political science and political philosophy. Or they might have asked questions on what is the significance of political theory. No points what you read. It helps in resolving conflict, maintaining social order, predicting the future outcomes, building a better society. So if you have read the previous year questions and you know what other direction questions can come, that will open up your brain towards thinking on that direction. But let us think you have just by hearted what is political theory, and let us think in exam they ask more a bit of applied question, then you will not be able to write it. And in mains, trust me, they are not going to ask question like describe what is political theory. No, either the question is going to come this way. These are the probable questions that has come or will come. One probable question they can ask is comment on political theory. 10 marks, 150 words. Another question they might ask on discuss the significance of political theory. Either it can be a 10 marker question or a 15 marker question. Or other question they might ask in the exam, or which they have already asked, is that differentiate between political theory and political ideology. We have already discussed now. The other question they might also ask is that what we'll read now next. They might ask, comment on political philosophy. Same way, the question can also come, comment on political science. Or they might ask certain question this way also. This is a format, quotes. And two types of question will come. Question straightforward like this, or they might ask in form of a quote. Every political theorist is partly a scientist and partly a philosopher. Comment 10 marks, 150 words, and they'll give the name of the person also as quoted, Andrew Hacker. So observe one thing. If you have gone through the previous year question papers in political science, whenever they give a quote, in 90% of times they would have given the name of the person who has told that quote. It doesn't mean that you read about that guy. You just need to have an idea from which perspective that fellow is speaking. The reason why they give it is that because they are asking that question in a particular context. And you need to write that person's view, then you can counter it. But you see your essay paper, question essay, all the 8 essays will be philosophical essays, form of a quote. But there never ever they would have given the name of the person who is saying that quote. Why? Because they are not asking you to write the essay from what that fellow said. They are asking you to write the essay what you think and what does it mean to you. So that is why you can say some people why they score less in essay, even though they have political science, sociology as optionals, because they get deeply engrossed and writing more political science stuff into their essay, explaining their complex theories and all. That won't fetch marks in an essay. In an essay, you have to simplify it right from your point of view. That how do you see that quote? They're not asking what Marx is telling about it. They're not asking what Gandhi is saying about it. They're just asking what does it mean to you. But in political science, it is not like that. When they're asking a quote, they're also giving the name. Why they're giving the name? Because they're giving you an indication, okay, we're asking the question from this point of view. Right answer for that. So as I told, question can come also like this in form of a quote. It doesn't mean it is a difficult question. You just need to simplify that question. So let us think that quote, what is saying? Partly a philosopher, partly a scientist. Okay, what exactly will you, I'm not telling you to write the answer, what exactly you should write as a component of your answer or structure of your answer? What will be required to write there? So one, you need to first of all understand under what context is he saying it. That should be there in your answer. I am telling you can't write this question now only. Why? Because you have not yet completed approaches to political. I am just giving you an idea. He is saying at a time when this debate was happening between political philosophy and political science that we are greater, we are more important to the subject, where this fellow came and told, no, both are important. So obviously when you are going to write in your answer, you are going to give that as a context in your introduction, saying that Andrew Hacker brought this argument when there was this emergence of post-behavioralism, where they said, this conflict going on, whether facts are important or whether values are important. Then you need to explain, because see, it is asking comment. Comment means your opinion. So either it can be two. Either you disagree with him, saying, no, I don't think so. I think so. Philosophy is more important than science. You can write, but that is not a logical argument you can justify. Or you can write this way also. No, I don't agree with him. Science is very important. Values is not important at all. Still your answer is half-baked. You're getting the point. Here what he's saying is the synthesis. You don't need to create a new thesis out of it. Just explain that synthesis. That's why I told every question is not same. Here you cannot tell I'll write positive, I will write negative. This is not that type of question where you write positive, negative. Plain away in your answer, you need to explain why philosophy is important, why science is important, how both are complementary. And just summarize your answer. So this will get an idea when we do it, but I'm telling just as a format that how you can approach this question. So this question cannot be approached the traditional way, saying that what, sir, I'm going to write positives, then I'm going to write negative, or I'll write one paragraph about who is this Andrew hacker. Nobody cares. The question is not about Andrew hacker, the question is about what he's saying. So that's what I told. Initial days, you need to pick up these kind of things. That's what I'm saying. Don't write an answer. Just read question, break down the question in your mind. If you want to use a book just to break down the question, this is exactly what they're asking. This is what I need to write. If you want to write a flow chart, saying this I will write, after this I will write, even if you're not written the skeletal framework you build. Got it? Now understood. These are the questions that can come, that has come in the exam. So obviously, requiring to answer this exam, what you'll have to know, you read about what is political theory, you read about what is political thought, you read about what is politics, you read about what is polity, you read about what is city-state, you read about what is nation-state. Now you need to read about, in depth, what is political philosophy and what is political science. And so combination of these two will form what? Political theory. So now if you take political theory is equal to political philosophy plus political science. So why we are starting with philosophy first? Because it was philosophy first that developed in this subject. Then it moved towards science. So obviously we need to understand what is political philosophy. Even before going into philosophy, you need political philosophy, you need to understand what is philosophy. And you also have to understand what are the significance, importance of political philosophy to the field of political theory. Same way, you should also know what are the limitations of political philosophy. Not 4 points in all. That is what is required. You're getting a point. I don't care whether you have not understood in depth. All I care is that can you write 4 points in significance? Can you write 4 points in limitation? Can you write 2 good introductions? And can you quote certain names, not all the names, whom you can link the thinkers with what? Political philosophy. You understand? So when you read in some parts of the notes, you will find 2 types of things. One, you will find thinker. Thinker means like when you read Plato. Plato himself has told many things. That you will see in the notes later. It will be in form of a quote. But in some places, you will also find commentators. What are commentators? Those who have read this work, those who are experts in that area, those who have read their work and they have presented their view on it. So we are attaching importance to 2 things. One, important commentators or the thinker himself. So either I need to know some commentaries, I need to know some thinkers in this particular context. If I know that much, my political philosophy is done. Same structure, what you apply for political science. What you are going to read here? What is political science? Significance of political science. Limitations of political science. Certain name of the thinkers whom we say these are all political scientists, means they give more importance to science than philosophy. And obviously few commentaries. If this much you prepare on, that what is a topic, introduction to political theory will be done. And plain and simple, I am just giving you a format, what you should read. Rest beyond this, rest you read, it's your wish. Not mandatory, not current trend of the exam, not required. Because you can't rule out future trend of the exam might also change. They might get into newer areas. But based on the last, what you can say, 10 years question paper analysis, these are the areas the question has come. If you prepare on this regard, pakka 1 or 2 questions will come in this area. You already have ready-made points. Just go write it in the exam. You're understanding. So your preparation, that's what I'm saying, your preparation here, don't jump and swim into political science. Some people, that is a mindset problem. They look at the subject and think it's too big, okay, no. To the point. What is your target? First aim for 260, then aim for 300. Now only you can tell I'll score 300. Even I can tell I'll become PM of this country. It might happen in future, but now though it will not happen. So first target is always aim for some achievable things. 260 is aram se achievable with simple preparation, simple logic, to the point you are following it. 300 is possible with your little bit of hard work, some value addition what you do, and some creativity what you bring in writing. So that's why I told, these are the simple things you have to know. What is political philosophy? What is political science? With respect to what? Significance, limitations. So for now, we'll just take up political philosophy before we end the class to understand what significance. So as I told, to understand political philosophy, first we need to understand what? Philosophy. Okay, what is philosophy? Who is considered as the father of philosophy? Socrates. Okay, remember, Socrates is considered as the father of philosophy. Plato is considered as the father of political philosophy. So, removing political philosophy, just thinking about philosophy, philosophy basically means the question what we raise about metaphysical aspects of life. Right? Questions like, why is this life needed? What is the purpose of this life? What is good? What is bad? Now that is a basic idea, that is what we can say, that is our philosophy. We can have a philosophy in life. Like you can say, some people say, this is my philosophy, I'll work on this method. Same way, if you bring that context into, so in one thing in philosophy, what is too much we are giving significance to? Is the values. Philosophy can never be based on fact. Philosophy is always based on value. Value is always what we call as, value cannot be black or white. Because we can say it can be good or it can be bad. What is good for you might be bad for others. So there cannot be any kind of empirical study of philosophy. Empirical means what? Scientific. Scientific means what? Based on facts. Facts can be based on what? Proof. That's what is a proof? What you can see, what you can touch, what you can verify. ChatGPT. ChatGPT, okay. But I'm telling you, even before ChatGPT came into equation, what is a verifiable thing? Matter is a verifiable thing. You can touch it, you can see it, you can. So that is what we can say is facts. But philosophy cannot be based on facts. Philosophy can also deal with questions regarding universe. You understand? It can be beyond what you see in the material things, understanding the law of universe. So that is why we say deep philosophical questions is that what? What is the purpose of your life? You understand? So always philosophical questions are what? You question about the life. So political philosophy also involves studying or giving focus more on political values. So when you say political philosophy, what is the method of study? Like whom you can think, who is a political philosopher? Like Plato is an example. Why? Because when you look at Plato's methods, that how he understood politics, largely which method he understood politics? Philosophical method. So how you can say his method was philosophical? If you go through his ideas, largely you see he speaks about metaphysical aspects. So whatever he is saying, none of can be verified. It is not based on facts. It's purely based on values. So you look at the features of political philosophy. What are the features of it? It is largely based on what? Values. It deals with what kind of question? Means a philosopher, a political philosopher, what kind of question he will raise? He will raise a question, what ought to be? Meaning when Plato gave his theory, his goal was how it should have been, but how we are now. Meaning he's prescribing certain values. Understand? He told the world should be ruled by philosophers, or king should know the art of philosophy. Meaning what work, what kind of question is not dealing with the question of what it is. He is not looking for answer like what it is. He knows what it is. He is giving you a question saying that what ought to be, means how it should have been. So he is speaking something about ideal. He is prescribing you ideal values. So what is the work he is doing? He is performing what role? Prescription. Understand the main role of a philosopher, political philosopher. When you compare to a political scientist is more keen on explaining things. Political philosopher is more keen on what? Prescribing. He is prescribing how a society should have been. Understood? So he was unhappy with Athens, and that is why he prescribed an ideal society is what we call as philosopher king. So what work did he do? And what did he prescribe? Values. What values should be there in a ruler? What values should be there in an ideal state? And largely what kind of questions he raises. Okay. These questions do not deal with true or false. It deals with what? Good or bad. Plato is only prescribing that thing. He is not going to say, he is not keen on collecting facts or etc. So for example, you can say, does human body has soul? True or false, tell me. That question cannot not false. The question is only cannot be answered in that regard. So he does not raise those kind of questions. He always raises questions what deals with good or bad. So that's why I told what always you deal with the question of good or bad is ultimately connected to what? Values. And whatever things or phenomenon is putting it out, these are all not verifiable. What do you mean not verifiable? There is no evidence that has been collected, no evidence that has been presented. So obviously when you look at holistically what kind of methodology Plato, we are not only limiting, we can link it to those political philosophy who use. We call their methodology as called as normative method. Please remember the word normative. The opposite of the word normative is what? Empirical. What does empirical means? Scientific. What does normative mean? Based on values. Understood? So now I told now recently they'll give exit poll. So in exit poll, what method they would have used? Empirical. Why? Because what they're putting it out. They'll try to give you a data, and that data can be verified. What Plato is saying, that is normative. It cannot be verified because many questions or things what he is dealing with, it is not even concerning the material world. He is dealing with metaphysical aspects, because in philosophical method you also deal with metaphysical questions. This is the features, or what is political philosophy. Any doubt here? I repeat again, what is political philosophy? It is largely concerned with values. So here, which values are largely dealing with political values? It raises the question about what ought to be, means how it should have been. So what function they are performing, prescription, and what kind of questions nature they deal with, good or bad, because good or bad is always a continuum, meaning when you say true or false, it's a clearly dissected question. When you say good or bad, this is a continuum, means now suddenly you felt good, now presently, 2 classes of political value. After 1 month you might feel, oh, or you might have told, no, it is bad. 2 months later, no, okay, I'm getting hold of it, it's good. You understand? This is a type of question where there is no permanence to it. And it can be also like, if it is true, it doesn't mean it has to be false. It is good. You cannot tell it is a complete good. You might say, okay, there are some goods, there might be some bad. But if you say true and false, it is not like that. Either it should be true, either it should be false. So for example, let us say Ravan here. For us, we might see Ravan as a evil person who abducted Sita. But there is also some Shiva bhakts who believe that he was one of the greatest bhakt of Shiva. Or if you go to Sri Lanka, he is worshipped as God. So whom we see as an evil force, he is a king to somebody else. For example, Hamas might be a terror organization to the Israelis, but Hamas can be seen by a liberation force by the Palestinians. The question is that whether Hamas is good or whether Hamas is bad, you don't have a clear-cut answer to it. It's all based on your values, what you believe in and what you stand for. But when Hamas operates in Palestine, there is a clear-cut answer for it, whether it's true or false. Hamas did a terror attack on October 7th, killing a lot of Israelis. You have a clear-cut answer, yes, it is true. So a philosopher or a political philosophy will not raise questions of true or false. It always raises a question of good or bad. And this is not completely verifiable, because values cannot be verified. And what approach we call it as? Normative approach. It means summary of all this we call as normative approach. And they also deal with metaphysical questions. And so these are the features of what we call as political philosophy. In the next class, we'll take about what are the limitations of political philosophy. So everything you have to read like this: significance, limitations, views, counter views. And that is why if you see in the notes, after every theory, there is something called as a word CE. CE basically means critical examination, means we are bringing our reflections on that particular ideas, and that is more important for the exam. What many people will do, why they don't score marks, right? They'll just go straight away in the exam, just write what they know about Plato, rather than writing out their examination about Plato. So that is what critical thinking is required. And that's why I told in a class, the more you participate, it can be better with respect to critical thinking. But if you are just as a silent spectator, just taking down notes, your critical thinking will not grow. Understand? And many times you have to limit yourself also to exam. I'll tell you why exam. Now, for example, let us say when you read Plato, this Death of Socrates is actually written by Plato in a particular book. Now, I'll read that also. curiosity. I want to know what happened, what was the debate that happened before he was, because there are many sources for it. Means in different, there are paintings which depict death of Socrates. You understand? You see, it might be interesting. So Socrates, before he dies, or before his the death on the previous day, he will ask one of his disciple to say that we own a cock, means they would have borrowed a hen from somebody else. We have to return it to him. Now these and all can be okay, this happened. Now in exam, where will you write? You got the point. So that's why I told this exam, UPSC exam, don't compare it with something like your degree exam. Don't compare it to something like your research exam. That is why in this exam you will find even people who are from biotechnology background, who are from commerce background, who are from engineering background, performing very well compared to those who are actually from political science background. Why? Because they are only studying it with a detachment, saying that my only thing is that I have to score marks, nothing else. I don't love the subject too deeply. Don't love anybody too deeply. Ultimately, you will get hurt. Attachment will always bring hurt. You have to always be detached. Plain and simple, my goal is to score marks. I'm going to get that 260. You are not an expert in political science, okay, let it be. You don't know in which book Plato wrote about Socrates? I don't know, I don't care. Why? They're not asking it in the exam. What is your only goal? Score. And that's our only goal, to train you to score, not teach you political science in depth. If it is required, we can teach. If it is not required, why will we teach? You are misguiding the student. Student will enjoy it. We will tell you like what is enjoyment. So for example, I think which batch was recently? B2, B7, right? B2, B7, Polity is going on. So we did for president, I think this was there. We did for president, we told about what Indira Gandhi did, how the controversy happened, who was this, that officer who helped Indira Gandhi, and why his resignation became controversial. Now why that story is important is just to keep the class glued. You are understanding? In reality what will happen if you just do what is required for the subject, that student, half of them won't understand only. You are understanding? The problem with UPSC is what? This field is actually led. This field means anything works on demand and supply. Demand, supply, economics, basic economics, everything works on demand and supply. In your house also everything works on demand and supply. You buy milk, why? Because it is more in demand. Right? How many of you use floppy disk now? Why you are not using it? It doesn't come to use now. So everything is based on demand and supply. So this field also works on demand and supply. So problem here, what happens is that the demand, from whom it is coming? It is coming from 80% of those aspirants who are non-serious, who do not have an idea of exam only. Their main goal is not getting a rank. Their main goal is what? Okay, we want to do something in this field. Or they don't have an idea that how to get a rank. It's only remaining 20% who are there, who are actually very serious for the exam and they actually understand the pulse of the exam. But what happens in the market, when you try to reach out to those 20%, these 80% will backfire. They are the ones who are paying the fees. They are the ones who are giving you business. Now, if you take them on and tell, hey, no, you have to study like this, do you think they appreciate it? 100% no. So what many people will also do in the market is that keep them happy. What gives them? Stories. Tell them 100 different stories. Keep them happy. At least he'll go back. I knew at least what happened in 1975. Whether that will come in the exam, it's not going to come. That's the reality. That's the plain reality of the exam, is that why story. And you look at in YouTube also, which videos would have got more likings? Always which has a story. Any video, if to the point, no. Always with a story, or like which kind of videos I have found out will work out. Not subject videos. ये NCERT book पढ़ना है, ये पढ़ना है. इसका positive ये है, इसका negative ये है. ये पढ़ो, ये पढ़ो. How to read that? What to read that? Where that flow will go? You are understanding? That's why I say political science is subject will make you realize how people are ruling others, not through force. through the power of ideas. Even without your realization, you would have become enslaved to a particular idea. Because that is what Gramsci says. When you read Gramsci, that is what you'll understand. No longer prison seems prison. No longer control seems control. Everything is happening for your good. Why? Because they have not captured you physically, they have captured you mentally. And that is how British ruled India for 150 years, in spite of being a small highland kingdom country and ruling in entire India, because it's not that they were so, militarily strong. Ideologically, they ruled India, and they continue to rule India even now. That is what is a British legacy. Plain and simple, the exam what we are writing, the language what we are speaking in, it is again a British leftover legacy in this country. Understand? So that is what I say, that the way you need to prepare is that you can't prepare in a blind way what 80% does. You can't go that way. You have to be more exam oriented. That's why I told, exam oriented is very simple. PYQ, have notes for the key things, know what type of questions are coming. Read that and organize your notes in such a way that significance, limitations, it should be ready. It should not that you sit in the examination and think. And you should have written 80% of the previous year questions before December. It should be done. It should be there in your notes, 80% of the previous years. If you do this much, yeah, things can work out. Got it? So tomorrow's class will take up what? Limitations of political philosophy. Then we'll go into the same thing for political science. And once that is done, we'll not be going into approaches. We'll be going into reading Plato, Aristotle. Once we complete the entire Western thinkers, then we'll come to the approaches of politics. Got it? So notes will be also uploaded. I think Plato, it's already uploaded. Today evening, I'll upload the notes for Aristotle. Means I'll be uploading one notes end of that, because Plato only takes 4 days to complete. So obviously, I'll keep uploading thinkers beforehand only, so that you can just take a look at it.